So let me just read to you. I'm not surprised to hear this. Here's the title. Pentagon UFO Chief suggests alien mothership may send probes to spy on planet Earth. And then the subtitle, speculation about a government-backed PSYOP being perpetrated on the American people has ratcheted up in recent months following the Biden administration's decision to shoot down a Chinese spy balloon. So, okay, let me just read the first paragraph. Okay. A draft report written by a high-ranking Pentagon official is making the truly bizarre claim that there may not only be an alien mothership flying around the Earth's solar system, but that it might send probes to our planet to spy on mankind. Quote, an artificial interstellar object could potentially be a parent craft that releases many small probes during its close passage to Earth, an operational construct not too dissimilar from NASA missions, the document says. So, do you, okay, we're going to talk about it in later, but why now? Why is the Pentagon UFO chief? Why is he saying this? I have my own opinions, but Gary, what do you think?
Well, to me, it goes back to the 1940s and Roswell, and everybody has seen and heard the Roswell story a million times. That started just a little thinking underground, undercover. Not much, just a little conversation. But the conversation took place among very high planning mentalities in the government and in the United States system of engineering and sciences. Very quietly, they were all saying, we need to see if we can catch one of these things and use it for reverse engineering and build better equipment ourselves. And the government, as we all know, any of us who read know that the government has programs launched to see if they can find any little scraps of crashed UFOs.
Bob Lazar, right? His whole story.
That's right.
Yep. He's a physicist claiming to work on those exact things at S4.
So, next question is, as a Christian, how do I take this? Does the Bible talk about UFOs? Certainly it does. And the UFOs are things that fly in the sky that are not necessarily friendly, and they're called fallen angels. And they haven't changed. They may change their appearance slightly, but they're the same guys they used to be thousands of years ago when they rebelled. They came down to earth. The rebellion is still on. Satan is still their leader. He told Jesus while Jesus was alive, I control all of this down here. And you know what? I'll give it to you if you will just kind of concede a couple of things to me, Jesus. And we all remember that. And what was Satan doing? He was observing the entire earth. He has his fallen ones, and they circulate around the earth doing what he wants to do. And that's the Christian point of view of UFOs, if you will. Unidentified flying, or as they're called now, UAPs.
Right. This is the hard part because we believe that UFOs are real, that they say phenomenon now, and that's a very, I think it's a word that they use it to equivocate, to change right in the middle. When you say phenomenon versus object implies something tangible, physical.
Right.
Where unidentified aerial phenomenon, the word phenomenon, the very definition of the word has the idea of something that is by appearance. It might not be real, but that's the way it appears to you.
Yes.
So that's they're switching it right in the middle of the game.
Exactly.
Denying the idea of a physical, tangible object. So we believe that these objects are real. We're not saying that we know and have all of the answers to who is exactly piloting. We do believe that they're physical. There have been physical things found. There's been reports, as we discussed in that DVD set, the ways in which the government is acknowledging having these things, as well as creating these new departments. One of them is the AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, founded in July 2022 to detect, identify, and attribute objects of interest in, on or near military installations, operating areas, training areas, special use airspace, and other areas of interest. So they've created these new departments in order to communicate, but the Pentagon chief coming out at this time talking about alien motherships, I think is a wag the dog scenario. It's able. There were several other articles that came out in the last month or two. All of a sudden, like, wow! All of a sudden, the government, the current administration is talking about these objects, even though they've been talking about it the last couple of years. But it's like a slurry of articles came out, and you're like, why are these guys talking about it? I think it's a little bit of trying, as it says here, to distract from the Chinese balloon incident. But it does go back to the question of, we believe these are real, and as Christians, should we have a biblical response?
And I believe so. And I've written a few articles over the years about this, and the fact that UFOs are seen all the time, or UAPs as they're called now, to make it certain that you can't put your thumb on it and say that's a UFO. A UAP is an unidentified aerial phenomenon, which covers a multitude of sins.
It does, yeah. It's a distraction. We can stick with UFO because we know what we mean by it.
We do.
Yeah.
And those flying objects, according to Pentagon, come and go out of parent craft, big, as we would call the mothership.
Yeah, that's the theory that they're saying here.
That's exactly right.
And you're like, you guys watching, I mean, you think this is so outlandish. I'm not saying I would even necessarily disagree with it. This makes sense. But why? It's just interesting to me that they're talking about this parent mothership. Like, well, that's the first we've heard about a mothership from the Pentagon.
Well, what I believe they're doing is putting a secular gloss over what is a spiritual situation. And I have my Bible open to Ephesians 6 here, and I'll start in the 12th verse, and it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. That's one group. Against powers, that's another group. Against the rulers of darkness in this world, that would be still another group. I think these are descending orders of command. That's the way I read this. Against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, what would that be? That would be, I think, what we call demons, right? So you have Satan, and you have his principal angels, fallen ones.
Yeah.
And you have a group of people under them, and then you have the demons and the devils that roam the world. And that's what the Bible calls UAPs. And I believe that. I don't think they're from some galaxy far, far away, but the fiction has been built. Back, H.G. Wells had a Martian invasion of the world, and we killed the Martians, and ta-da, we were victorious. You have Star Trek, Captain Kirk and his group, which grew to a massive collection of motion pictures that are all propaganda pieces. They're designed to say, hey, we have an aerial battle against good and evil, but the good is on our side, and we'll win. And then you have Galaxy Quest, which you remember the comedic.
Yes, absolutely.
And the people in the Galaxy Quest, the aliens who live far, far away, worshipped Earthlings. They just thought we could walk on water. And it was, again, one of the propaganda pieces designed to build the subliminal idea that space travel is going on out there all the time, and there are good space travelers and there are bad ones, and we need to get connected with the good ones. The Bible doesn't say that. It says there's a group, one group, principalities and powers, rulers of darkness, and I don't believe there's a good guy group. And so that's what we're dealing. I wanted to get that kind of leveled out before we go back to what the Pentagon said.
Yeah, well, it's true because see, here again, we were talking about this on a previous podcast, that we need discernment. We need a lot of discernment where the Bible, you see this article, the Pentagon's these guys are talking about motherships. You know, I just think, why are they talking about it now?
Yeah.
I see it as a distraction, taking away from the reality. Many people would look at it and would maybe mock it. But we've already talked about, again, in our DVD set, I just was reading from congressional records, congressional bills. They're spending money to create all these systems. So there's a narrative that's going on behind the scenes that is a real narrative that we think potentially or most likely would be used at the end of the age as a deception. And we want to say, hey, any other group that's from any other place, allegedly, If they come with a message of being our saviors, you see this in the astronomy world, astrobiology, you can get PhDs in that, where they're looking for panspermia, that these other beings evolved somewhere else, and they came and implanted us here, and you're like, that just kicks the can down the road. Who created them? They had to come from somewhere, because we know that evolution does not work by any means. That's been proven over in chemistry and as well as biology in that regard. They don't have no idea how you get life from non-organic life